Car sales crash. Young adults moving back home with their parents hits all-time high. Rents are not dropping thanks to the eviction freeze. And is it going to be low rates to infinity? I thought there was a V-shaped recovery. It seems like we should be able to raise rates. Maybe what we're being told is incorrect. Alright, let's get into it. Hey everybody, JJ here. Before we get started, just wanted to say I did another Patreon upload. Thanks to all my supporters, people helping me out by supporting me over at Patreon. We'll get into a ton of topics that we can't really get into on this platform here. So there's a link down below that's going to take you to my homepage, to the website. The link to Patreon is going to be right down below. Thanks again for all your support. Please head over there, support me, and get this other content. There's a lot of very important things happening right now. Alright, but into today's report, let's talk about the car sales first. Wall Street Journal. Car sales are down almost 20%, but prices are setting records. Do we see a problem here, folks? Normally, if there's less demand, and we're seeing that in the sales numbers, if there's less demand, prices should be declining. We all know the problem. The problem is consumers are too willing to take on debt. Again, consumers are too willing to take on debt and to not purchase the vehicle if it's not the right price, or maybe negotiate a lower price. People are going in, getting financed, agreeing to 60 months, 72 months, 84 months in some cases, car loans, and they're just stretching out the number of months to try to fit it into their monthly budget. So even though demand for vehicles has dropped off of a cliff, prices have not declined. Normally prices would be dropping right now big time, but that is not happening. Right? When there's banks that can lend money they don't have, and when you have consumers willing to take on debt for 6-7 years for a vehicle, prices are going to not drop, and they're actually increasing. Prices are setting all-time records. How crazy is that? So this just shows you a couple things. It shows you the willingness of the consumer to go into debt, further into debt, and it shows you that banks are still willing to lend even during the worst economic collapse since the Great Depression. And why is that? Well, we've talked about it many times. Banks do not need anything in reserves. They need zero in reserves to lend out money. They used to have some requirement that has been eliminated. So bank deregulation, I can't stress that enough. I know I talk about that from time to time, but that's one of the biggest things that I rarely hear reported in other areas, and especially the corporate news. So there you go. Yeah, prices are completely disconnected from reality, from what should be the laws of supply and demand, and it all goes back to endless currency that can be created out of nothing and lent out to infinity. And what other fundamentals, what other prices are flawed right now, and what other numbers can we look at to show that things are not where they really should be? Let's talk about rents. Rents should be dropping, right? The worst economic collapse since the Great Depression, record numbers of adults moving back home with their parents. But apartmentlist.com, rents are still up year over year, 0.3%. How crazy is that? And that's why I put down in here, on the spreadsheet here, I put down, thanks to eviction freeze. Now I know what some of you are saying. No, I don't want to see people get evicted and end up on the streets. But here's the thing. If you don't allow the market to correct, rents are going to remain too high, and then the problem of unaffordability never gets corrected. So if you allow people to get evicted, landlords are going to find out real quick that it's not easy to find someone to replace the people that they kicked out. It's not easy to find someone to come in and pay the rent that they might want. So they're going to have to drop rents. And in some cases, you're going to have to drop rents drastically. When you look at the devastation in the economy and the job losses, maybe rents should be 50% lower than they are right now in some areas. Maybe they should be 70, 80% lower, right? We don't know because we have no way of finding out what the true budget is for renters, right? So rents should be based on what people can afford. And sadly, you know, with this, even before the shutdown, people were paying enormous portions of their income towards housing and rent. Some cases 40, 50, 60, 70% was going to housing, and that doesn't leave much more for necessities like food, the utility bills, and it's a very bad situation that again, it's not getting corrected. And again, I want to emphasize, I don't want to see people kicked out of their homes, but if you have to move in with a relative, a friend, if you have to move to a lower price area, that's what needs to be done. And we do see this flight out of the big cities and the more expensive downtown areas into middle America, out into the suburbs, into smaller towns. And it's pretty simple to figure out. Rents would be dropping a heck of a lot more if they would just allow the normal process of evictions to take place. Now, yes, you would see a lot of pain at the beginning. There would be a lot of people with no place to live, more people forced to move back in, probably with a relative or a friend, more people having to move to lower priced areas, maybe a smaller town somewhere. Maybe we would see new housing booms in Iowa and Kansas and middle America if this happened. Right? So allow the market to correct, and then it's going to be up to the landlord if they want to do one, if they want to drop their price, and they may have to drop it pretty significantly, or two, leave their home or their unit sit empty. They may want to just leave it sit empty instead of having, just a few $100s coming in for rent, and then having to do maintenance and upkeep and worry about the renters damaging their property. Maybe they'll just leave it sit empty. That's up to them, but they're going to have carrying costs. They're going to still have taxes and other expenses that go along with owning a home. So most landlords, probably I'd say 95% of them, are going to be renting them out at a lower price. That's what needs to happen. Prices need to correct. All of this intervention is just distorting prices everywhere you look, with vehicles, with homes, with rents. So the underlying problem of the cost of living being too high and incomes being too low and job losses being too high, the problem's never corrected. All this intervention is stopping the economy from fixing itself. That's right, the economy will fix itself if you just let prices correct. It's not rocket science. You don't need a Harvard degree like our friends over there at the Fed. It's pretty amazing, that this is happening, but still most people have no clue that the solution in this case is actually the problem, or the solution that they're presenting. All right, so rents are, of course, up barely year over year, 0.3%. In previous years, they were up a lot higher. From 2016 to 2017, it was at 3%. And you see the chart right here between 1 and 3%. So we're still up year over year. Rents would have crashed if it weren't for the eviction moratoriums. Pretty simple to figure out. And that brings us to our next subject. Young adults moving back home hits all-time high. Again, should be no surprise. This is what people have to do when they can't afford their own place, when they can't afford rent. And this one's out of cbslocal.com. 52% of young adults in the U.S. are living with their parents. Now, some may say that's a good thing. It's a good way to save up money, live at home longer, save up more money if you can. But another problem in this country is people have been discouraged from savings. Why put your money in the bank if you're lucky to get 1% annually on your savings in return? Why? Because interest rates are too low, and we're going to talk about that next. Now, this article cites a Pew Research Center study that found that a majority of young adults, which is 52%, live with one or both of their parents. Right? And think about this. This is worse than the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, it's estimated that about 48% of adults lived with their parents. We should expect to see more cars parked in driveways, driveways full of cars now, with families moving in together. It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. It could be very stressful and depressing if you're an adult with kids and now you have to move back in with your parents, and now you have to share bedrooms and people are sleeping on the floor and the couch, and you lose your privacy. You lose your space, you don't have room to store your things, so now you have to get a rental unit. It could be pretty traumatizing. But maybe it'll help people connect with their family again, who knows. But again, worse than the Great Depression, adults moving in with their parents. But yet, there's a V-shaped recovery, right? That's what they're telling us. Let's talk about the unemployment number here. Again, the V-shaped recovery myth is going to be blown out the window. Let's talk about a few things here. Let's take a look at a Hill article right here. The Hill. The economy adds 1.4 million jobs in August as unemployment falls to 8.4%. Well, we're going to talk about what the real number is. It's not 8.4%. But also, this doesn't take into account all of the other job losses. So yes, while some jobs are being added, there's still even more jobs being lost. So we had 800,000 something just last week. We had 1 million before that, 1 million before that. Right? So these feel-good headlines don't paint the true picture of what's really happening. And by the way, when you look at the real data, unemployment's actually closer to 30% still. You have to count the long-term discouraged workers that were defined as being non-existent back in 1994 when they changed the reporting method. And just a few reports ago, we showed you another chart that blew the official unemployment number out of the water. That's the labor force participation rate. Go back just a few reports and you'll see that too. We talked about it at that time. Now let's talk about this. Low interest rates could last for years, according to Powell. This is a CNBC article. Isn't that amazing? So it seems like with the amazing V-shaped recovery that we could go ahead and raise interest rates, right? If the economy is going to come roaring right back, let's go ahead and raise those rates back up, right? Not going to happen. It doesn't take a Harvard degree. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out, people. We need to continue to prepare. The numbers that are being presented to us, what we're being told, are painting a false reality of what's really happening. In reality, there's a lot of pain happening right now. They're masking it over. They're covering it up. They're preventing prices from correcting, which is going to make the unaffordability problem continue. Right? We need to let markets function. Everybody, thanks for watching this. Hope you're having a good Labor Day weekend. It's going to be really hot here in San Diego, so I'm just going to try to take it easy this weekend. But thanks everybody for your support. I really appreciate it. Again, a link down below to our homepage, which has the link to Patreon. Doing about 1 to 2 uploads a week over there now. Very dangerous time for all of us here with the market makers out there, the monopoly men, looking to prevent prices from falling. They're looking to prevent deflation. And they've even said it, they want to have more inflation now. Right, so it's going to be more loose lending, more easy money, suppressed interest rates to infinity, which is going to cause prices to continue to be elevated beyond what people can really afford, forcing people to go to the banks. I mean, people aren't forced to, but people will go to the banks now and get loans. And who knows, before this is over, we might see 8-year, 9-year, 10-year car loans, maybe 40, 50-year mortgages. Who knows? I mean, they can stretch it out to infinity. They can manipulate this thing. It's just a real dangerous time, everybody. Thanks for watching. Again, hope everybody's well. Bye for now.